Hey guys, and welcome to another episode. This is part 4, and in this part we're going to have a look at sorting out the SCSI on the Mac Plus. I do happen to have the chip, the AMD SCSI chip, that turned up today. Also, the crystals for the Coleco, for the daughter board for the Atom. Those turned up as well. So there's another one we can look at after we've done the SCSI on the Plus. So there's plenty to do. As I said in the end of the last video, I do have the floppy disk to test booting it, but also we do have the second SCSI hard drive. Now the floppy drive I have, this is the one that was in the black case that was meant to be empty and just had a tube in it, and that had a floppy in it. Now I've lubed this up and I've put a gear in it and everything, and it seems to work fine. So we have a spare drive if the other one doesn't work. And then there's also this Maxtor SCSI hard drive that was inside that case too. There's one there if the other one doesn't work, that's in the Plus. So guys, we've got plenty to do, plenty to get on with. Grab yourself a seat, something to drink, something to nibble on if you want to. Sit back and let's get on with it. And there's also a couple of other things I thought of. The board that has the SCSI in it, this one here. Now I've taken the SCSI out because I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, this may not work. And what I was looking at is not all the pins are connected on one side. Now that's fine, but if the chip is on the motherboard, that is fine. Now that I move the chip up to the card, maybe it needs some of these other pins. So I've taken this off because I'm going to re-jump it. I've got a short strip of rainbow ribbon cable, and I'm just going to join those on, and we'll do that as well. So, right guys, so what I'm going to do is I've taken the chip out just so I don't damage it. So all I'm going to do is separate these, tin either end, strip up a piece of the ribbon cable, tin that, and not sure if I'm going to put a bit of heat shrink on them or not. Probably not. I might. They are far enough apart, they should be fine, but even if I stagger the heights in them, just so that they don't short on anything. And I'll solder all these ones in, and then I'll come back to it. You don't need to sit here and watch me do this, it's pretty basic stuff. I'll do all that, and then we will come back to it. Alright guys, see you soon. Okay guys, so I've finished the card. As you can see, I've joined wires across. I've put insulation tape across here because of where the bare connections are, and I've done them in groups and made sure they don't short together. And I've done a continuity across them and the pins all connect. So now I've got to put this into the socket down here over the side and then plug it up. And then once I've got it plugged up, then I can power it on and we can see it'll boot off the SCSI. Alright, so let me get all that put together, and then I'll come back to you and we'll give it a try. Okay, so we've got it all plugged in now, we've got the cables and everything on, so we'll fire it on and see what we get. So the light's on the front, the middle one is a yellow, which looks like a power light, so it looks like you have your hard drive, the power, and then the floppy with what the 3 LEDs are for. We don't have the floppy drive in it, so we're not going to get that. No, it's not booting off the hard drive. No, it's not booting off the hard drive. So looking at that, it could be that that SCSI IC that might be of not much use. What we'll do is we'll turn it off, and I ran out of time, so it's now another day, different top, and the bench is a little bit different. The two packets you see down here, as I mentioned in the intro, one has got the AMD SCSI chip in it, the other has got the crystals for the Coleco. So they can go back over a side, and we will get onto those later on. The other thing is this. Now the wife's been playing on Temu, as I have been, and she decided to get me this. Now this is a similar thing to these, but whereas with this one I have to take this out to put my extension in, to put any of the tips in. With this one, this piece goes in, and then you pull the collet down. You pull that collet down, and it will slide in, and there's rings on it. And each ring that you come out to, it'll lock. And you can lock it out, and it locks to whatever length you need it. Now I think that's pretty cool. And if you put the bit in the end, they're magnetic, the same as this. It's just, as things go on, technology advances. Same as with our PCs. So, I just thought I'd show you that. Nice little screwdriver set. Has the Torx bits, Phillips, plain, star, 3-sided, hex drive. And it also has the keyway ones, which has the notch, in the centre that goes with the 2 holes on either side of the screw. And it's got all that. And you can, if you want to buy one, you can get it on Temu for under 10 New Zealand dollars. Cheap. I just thought I'd show you that and let you know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the chip off here and put the new AMD chip on, and then we'll fire up and see if this hard drive works. If the hard drive doesn't give us any life at all, then I will try the other hard drive, because I think this is spinning up. So if it's spinning up, there should be something there. It may not be initialized, and it may be just used as storage, which is why we can't see it. But I do have the floppy disk that Kirk made me, and thank you, Kirk. And so I will give that a go and see if it'll boot off that. If not, I do have another one coming from one of the guys, the one that sent me the gears that he had from eBay, and he's sending me a version 6 disc that'll work on the Plus. So guys, I think I will just pop this off the side, replace these ICs, then we'll plug it all in and we'll give it a go, fire it up and see how we go with it. Alright, so let's get on with it. Okay, so something different has happened, and now when I switch it on, I'm getting checkerboard. So that's what I'm getting on the screen. Now I think that's something to do with memory from what I think Adrian has said on his YouTube channel. I need to have another look and see if I can find out what that says. Another good thing to have a look at is, if you want to, is grab a copy of the Dead Mac Scrolls off the internet. And it's a book about all sorts of things that can go wrong in the early Macs and what the problems potentially could be that you can fix. I'll have a hunt and see what this means, and we'll go from there. So, back in a minute. So I've stripped the plus back down again. As you saw with those hash patterns, I went over the power board, the analog board, and I've removed all the old solder and redone it all. I did reflow it originally, and that's when it all started working after changing that transistor on the board. What I've done this time is I've gone over it and I've checked the whole thing. There was a few that was sort of maybe a little bit, I don't know. So to be 100% sure, I've gone over and done the whole lot, done everything I can think of, and cleaned the solder out completely. I had to put a bigger nozzle in me desoldering gun because some of these other legs were quite big and thick, so I had to put a bigger nozzle on it and go through and suck it all out. Use the hot air to help heat up the areas, suck it all out, went around and desoldered all the ones I thought I needed to, and then went through with the soldering on with the board still warm, fresh solder, and resoldered them all. What led me to that was when I was doing some of these header pins on the board, was when I was heating them up, they were bubbling and then going pop, and it's all the old flux that was in the rosin core they used back then. It was the paste they used, whatever that was, and that was causing, and I'm just wondering if that may have been giving me intermittent issues on some of the pins. That's why I thought, suck it up, take it all out, and fresh solder, and they're not pop marking like that like they were doing. So I'm hoping this has fixed it. I'm going to put this back in here, into the plus. I'm not going to put the motherboard in because I want to see if this will boot. I will plug it all up, and I will see if it will boot. Because when that checkerboard came, there was no chime to tell us it was firing up. So something has gone wrong, and it was obviously something that was marginal on here all along, and it's lifting it up and down when I was waiting for the bits to come in, and it's caused it to do that. So, as I say, plug this back in, and I'm just going to put the board on the outside and plug it up, and we'll fire it up and see if it starts up. Then once it does that, we'll carry on with sorting the SCSI and that out. As you can see, I've got the drive and everything out of it, so we can put the floppy, whichever of the two floppies works properly, we can put that back in, and then we can test which of the SCSIs will work if the issue is with the SCSI chip. It still could be that cable. I'm not 100% sure. So, I mean, if it won't boot up that way, the only other thing I can do is drop the SCSI chip onto the motherboard and get an external SCSI to plug into it to see if it picks it up. That'll be the only other thing. So I'll need to pop out and grab that one off Kirk if I can't find my blue SCSI. I will pop this back into here, and then I will get the motherboard and I will put that next to it and plug it all up, and we'll fire it up and see if it works. Alrighty? Alright, so I've got it all plugged up, plugged into the power. Now when I did that board, I did everything. Then on this one I also reflowed the connector that goes to the analog board as well. I redid the pins on that. The other thing I did is I also read online that sometimes, not with the plus, but with the classics, the RAM could cause the checker pattern as well. So I took the RAM out of this and cleaned the contacts on the RAM, and also cleaned the SIM slots, and I just used this as a nylon brush. You can buy them from the $2 shop. They come in a pack like this, and you get the nylon, a brass and a steel one. These are like $3 for 3, and I just buy these, and the nylon ones are good for doing the boards, cleaning the boards and cleaning flux off the boards and that. Bit of isopropyl, and I'll clean the edges of the RAM and clean the sockets, and then just wipe them down with a paper towel. Now the other thing I've heard is that they only use soldered RAM. I've known PCs to be really picky about that, but that generally comes down to the speed of the RAM, to whether it's gold plated or tinned. I'm not 100% sure. This has both in it. It has a pair of tinned and a pair of gold plated, giving it 4 megs of RAM. Couldn't see that being the problem. All along it was booting without an issue, but it could have been dirty connectors as well. So I've cleaned all that up. Now we're all plugged in, ready to go. I've got the power put in. I haven't got the keyboard put on it yet because I want to try this to make sure before I put it back in. The other thing I might do too is with this out is try the SCSI with this outside the machine instead of having to pull it in and out to plug it and unplug it into the board. If that doesn't work, then I can put the SCSI chip in here and then look at getting the blue SCSI to go into the back of this, sorry, and then we can see if that'll work. All plugged in, so power it on. So we've got our power on. I've got it going through my limiter, and turn that, and there we go. So we get the beep. So I'll just wait for it to finish carrying on, and yeah, the screen's come up. That's cool. So that's come up really well. I'll just bring you around so you can actually see. You might be able to. So that's the screen. So it's just waiting for it to finish counting the RAM, and then the SAD Mac. There we go. We've got the SAD Mac in there. That's because we've got no floppy drive or boot disk or anything like that. That's now back and working again. And as I said, I'm wondering if it was when I did it the first time, because I didn't physically remove the solder and I just reflowed it and added a bit of new stuff. I recommend, guys, if you're doing some of this really, really old stuff, take it out completely. Remove it. Use solder wick if you haven't got a desoldering pump. Take it all out. Give it a good clean. Fresh solder. The old flux with me was causing an issue. So just something to be aware of. Right, so this is all done. So now what I will do is I'll plug the SCSI unit into the back of this and just sit the SCSI drive down here and put the floppy power and that on. Oh, actually, we could try booting the floppy first. How about that? We'll try that first. We'll try booting off the floppy and see if it'll boot up. If it boots up, then we'll try the SCSI. Alright, let's get on with it. So we're ready to go. So we'll power that on. Power this on. And we're powering up. And yes, we do. And it looks like it's booting up. I just took you in there so you could hear it. But as you can see, and this is the original floppy that was with this unit too. And there we go. How's that? Isn't that cool? So that's working. So now I wasn't sure with this either. So that the big long cable that it had in it with the SCSI on it, I noticed on the board end of it they've cut a couple of the wires, and I don't know what that's for. I haven't dug through the schematics to see what the pin out of that is. I didn't know if the wiring would go all the way through to the end one to where the SCSI was. I picked it would because the SCSI was firing up. That all works fine, so that's cool. So we know that's fine, so I can put that back into its cradle, and then what we can do is shut it down and look at putting the SCSI on it and see if that works. And if that one doesn't, we'll try the other one. Alright, won't be a minute. Now the other thing is, this machine, when I took it apart, some of the screws were missing, so I'm just going through and I'm looking at it. A lot of the PC case screws and hard drive mounting screws are the same as what the Mac uses, so I'm just putting some of those in to help secure everything down so it doesn't move around. So whoever had played around with this before obviously didn't put all the screws back in it. That's in, the floppy drive's in. So now what I will do is I'll plug the floppy drive up and we'll try the SCSI out. May have to actually plug this board in to get that to work, because the floppy one's not long enough. I mean, the other thing we can do is just try the SCSI separately without putting it into putting the floppy drive on. It's a pity they didn't make the connection a little bit further along, and that made it a bit longer, so then you'd have more than one connection. But anyway, so what we'll do is we will go from this, and that's got the new AMD chip in it. That's all in there. Up a little bit, and so if this does work, I'll take you around with a little camera for a look, but then I'll put all this around so we can see it with the proper camera and the mouse. Right, so we're all plugged in, we're ready to go. Oh, I haven't got the hard drive LED plugged in because it's not long enough to reach. I could probably sit it upside down on top of the case and plug it in. Set that up there. And the other two, one was power and the other was floppy, so I need to double check them to see if the LEDs are working, because I don't know if all the LEDs are working or not. But anyway, what I will do is, this is a bit precarious the way it is, so I'll turn it on first and then I'll turn the power on, because trying to get in and out of here. So right, ready, let's do it. Oh, it actually may help if I actually plug the power in. It does. I don't know why, but it does tend to make things work a bit better. The cable, and move those out of the way so they don't end up all over the place. Sorry guys, I'm going to have to spin this around so I can see. Power connector is there. Okay. Right. Right, now we're all ready to go. So from this point, nothing's touching, nothing's shorting. Right, power it on this time. I've got that checkerboard pattern back again. Just pop that out. Okay, and we're booting up now. So when I put the SCSI in, I'm getting the checkerboard pattern. So that will tell me that either that's the wrong way round, but it is pin for pin, so it should be alright. What I'll do is I'll put the SCSI chip on the board and power it up. See if it boots up. If it boots up with that SCSI chip on the board, it'll either be the cable. Hang on. There's a wire off. One of the wires on the board is off. So that may have been shorting against something. So I will solder that on and we'll give it another try. It must have been only just touching when I put them on. Alright, let's give that another try with that plugged in. So right, give it another go, shall we? No. We get the checkerboard pattern. So if I pop that out and turn that on, it boots up. So there is something with the wiring or with the board or the SCSI that's causing an issue. I don't know what. So I will pop the chip into the board and see if that works. So that's plugged into that, so let's see what happens. Okay, I plugged the chip into the board and we're getting the checkerboard pattern again. Okay. I wonder if that chip is faulty. I don't know if it's any good or not. I was sold it as a good working chip, and I can only take the guy's word on it. We could try popping the old chip back in and see if we get the same thing. Because I think when we had the old chip in, I wasn't getting the checkerboard. So that's it. Right, so we'll fire it up this time. Yeah, so that's booting up with that chip in. I'm wondering if that's a faulty chip. I am wondering. What we might do is power down, plug the SCSI back in, plug that chip into this board, and see if that fixes our problem. Maybe this hard drive is not set to boot. Maybe it was put in, but they just never got round to putting an operating system on it. Down into that. Right, shall we give this a go and see if we get any joy out of it this time? So no, it doesn't look like it's booting off the SCSI. So that, I mean, maybe the drive's not bootable or it's not set up. I don't know. What we'll do is we'll power it down. Now I'm not 100% sure how long it should take for a SCSI drive to boot too. So it's making sure that's the right way around, which it is. Now I'm not 100% sure, as I was saying, how long it takes for a SCSI to boot, but I think it should be a little bit quicker than that. So what I'll do is I'll pop this off, and pop that off. And we'll swap these drives around, shall we? There we go from there. Plug you in. And we'll plug you in. And this is a bigger drive too. This is a 120 meg drive, so it's a little bit bigger than the other. It sounded like it was a little bit sticky, but it's fired up. Well, it's spun up finally, but it doesn't sound like it's actually running. So yeah, I don't know if that's because there's an issue with the chip or the power, but yeah, I might try resetting it and just see how we go. Definitely sounds a lot better this time. I think the first time it might have been sitting for a while and it was just having issues trying to boot up and get up to speed. Definitely no lights coming on the front for the hard drive. Yes, I would have thought it would have started booting by now, but it's not. Unfortunately, I don't think this is bootable. And I'm not, as I'm saying, I'm not sure whether it's the SCSI chip or not. So I think the next thing to do would be to borrow a blue SCSI, pop the chip into the motherboard, and then try a blue SCSI or another SCSI device on the external SCSI port. Sorry guys, that's where we're up to. Well, at least it's working again, and now I know what's giving me that checkerboard pattern, because I thought it was the analog board had gone faulty again, or the RAM or something. It was the IC. So what I'll do is I've got the diagrams for these two ICs, and what I'll do is I'll go through and make sure they are pin for pin. When I looked, I'm pretty sure I went through and they are pin for pin. Now I'm not too sure if it's anything to do with the two letters after them, maybe an issue, because this has got PC on it. Now I'm not too sure if the one I looked at had PC or something else after it. I think it had N something. Might be an issue. What I'll do is I'll look up the diagrams and then I'll put them on screen so you can actually see the two sets of chips, and you can see what's different with them, if there is any difference. Alright guys, I will put the floppy back into here. I'll put the board back underneath, just partially underneath. I won't put it all the way in, just so I can get in and put the chip in and take it out if I need to. I don't think I do, but I might have to. So anyway, I think we'll call this one here for now, and I will sort this out and get a hold of, I'll try and find my blue SCSI. If not, I'll grab the other SCSI device from Kirk, and we can give this a fire up and see if it works off SCSI. We know the floppy works. That's a plus. Until now, there we go guys. There's another one. A little bit of a curly one there. I wouldn't have thought the SCSI chip could cause so many problems. And being pin compatible, it's hard to believe. I'll have to do a bit more digging into that and see, as I was saying, if the letters at the end mean anything. I don't think so. I've seen a few Classic Macs videos on YouTube and they have the AMD chip in them, the same as the one I've got. So I don't think that's a problem. I may be looking at it being the cable or the board. Now you'll see on the next episode what I've done is I've actually redesigned that SCSI daughter board so that the chip can come off the motherboard and onto that daughter board, and then I'm just making the socketed cable on the motherboard, and it will go to a 40-way IDC onto that little daughter board, and then the socket for the IC and the SCSI and so forth and the LEDs and so forth will come off of that. It's pretty much the same design. I've just altered it a little bit, and hopefully they work. That's all been sent in and they're on their way, so hopefully they're here in the next week or two. So in the next video that you will see, the boards will be here. I'll put one together and we will try it out and see if that fixes our problem, because I'm just wondering if it was that board and the soldering and so forth may have been causing an issue with that AMD. I don't know, but we can only try. So guys, thanks for coming along for this ride. I hope you've enjoyed it so far and you've picked up a wee bit of information and stuff on there. The other thing is some of the comments I've had on the odd video, people have been very, very negative on things. Listen, we're all here to learn, and we learn from different people by doing things different ways. There is no cut and dry method for everything, and there's no cut and dry way to do things in the industry. Some people have been taught one way, some people have been taught the other way. Please be mindful of that and don't try and dictate to people that what they are saying is totally rubbish, because it may not be. So I just like to say we all have our own ideas on things and how we were taught, and that is all I'm saying on that. So from now on, guys, just this is the way I see things, this is the way I do things, and if that upsets some people, then I am sorry. You do not have to follow along if you don't want to. Please just don't spiel off half a page of negativity. With saying that, guys, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great week. Until next time, ciao.